All right, let's talk about something huge. Literally, we're going to use the idea of building a skyscraper to get our heads around a really interesting accounting challenge. This is all about contract costing. So let's dive right in. Imagine you've just won a massive contract to build a brand new skyscraper. It's going to be a 3-year project from start to finish. So here's the million-dollar question for your company. When do you actually report the profit you've made? Do you wait 3 whole years until the grand opening to report it all in one go? Or is there a smarter way? Well, if you wait, you're going to hit some major snags. Your financial reports would look totally out of whack, like you made 0 profit for 2 years and then bam, a gigantic profit spike in year 3. This creates what's called a distorted profit pattern. It gives a completely misleading picture of your company's health, and maybe even worse, it could stick you with a way higher tax bill in that final year. We definitely need a way to smooth that out. It's really important to draw a line here between two different ideas. A lot of us might be familiar with job costing. Think of a factory pumping out hundreds of identical chairs. It's short-term, it's repetitive. But building our skyscraper? No way. That's a whole different beast. It's a massive, one-of-a-kind project that takes years and happens out on a construction site. This needs a completely different set of rules. And that brings us right to the heart of the issue, what we can call the multi-year money problem. How on earth do you properly account for one single job that stretches across multiple financial years? And the solution? The real hero of our story today is a special method built just for projects like our skyscraper. It's called, you guessed it, contract costing. So how does this whole thing work in practice? Let's get into the main tool in our kit and see how it all comes together with the contract account solution. So the contract account, honestly, just picture it as a financial command center for our skyscraper project. It's a dedicated ledger, like a separate notebook, where every single cent spent and every dollar earned on this one project gets meticulously logged. This is absolutely crucial for keeping things straight. And the procedure itself is really logical. First, you open that unique contract account. Then you just start loading in all the costs, direct stuff like steel and labor, plus a fair share of your indirect costs like head office rent. You track everything, credit the account as you earn money from the contract, and at the end of each period, you figure out your profit or loss. So what kind of stuff are we throwing into this account? Well, you've got your obvious direct costs, the concrete, the glass, the wages for the construction crew. Then you have indirect costs, like that warehouse rent. You also have to account for using all that heavy machinery, the cranes and bulldozers. And of course, any money you pay to specialists, like electricians or plumbers you've subcontracted. It all goes into the pot. Okay, so we're tracking costs like a hawk. But in a project that takes years, how do we actually measure our progress? And more importantly, how do we get paid as we go? This brings us to tracking work in progress. A really key concept here is something called work certified. Picture this. Every so often, the client's architect shows up on our skyscraper site. They walk around, check our progress. Yep, the first 10 floors are built to spec. And then they issue an official certificate. That certificate is like a golden ticket. It formally values the work we've completed and gives the client the green light to pay us for that chunk of the project. But you might be wondering, what about all the work we did after the architect's last visit? Say we've already started framing the 11th floor. That's real work with real costs, but it hasn't been officially signed off on yet. Well, that's what we call work uncertified. We absolutely account for it, but, and this is critical, we value it at what it cost us to do, not the price we'll eventually bill. Why? Because we haven't officially earned the profit on it yet. Now, here's a little catch. Just because the architect certifies, say, $1 million of work, that doesn't mean a $1 million check shows up the next day. Typically, the client will pay a large percentage of that, maybe 80%, in cash. The other 20%, they hold that back. And that chunk of money they hold back is called retention money. Think of it as an insurance policy for the client. They hang on to it as a guarantee just in case any defects or problems are found in our work later on. It's a pretty smart way to make sure we're motivated to deliver a high-quality building right to the very end. This all leads us to the most important part of this whole explainer. This is the big one. We know our costs, we know the value of the work we've done. So how much profit can we actually claim in our books each year? Let's break down the rules of recognizing profit. So first, we have to calculate something called notional profit. Now, it sounds like a fancy term, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's the on-paper, estimated profit for the work we've done so far. You just take the total value of all your work, both certified and uncertified, and subtract all the costs you've racked up to get there. It's not our final profit number, but it's our starting point. And this is where the rules really kick in, because you can't just claim all that notional profit at once. The system is designed to be cautious. So if your project is less than a quarter complete, you recognize zero profit. No, it's just too early and too risky. Once you're between a quarter and halfway done, you can take 1/3 of that notional profit. And once you're past the halfway point, you can take 2/3. You see the pattern? It's a prudent approach that keeps you from overstating your profits before a project is truly near completion. But, and this is a huge but, what happens if things go wrong and you have a loss? Well, the rules for losses are the complete opposite of the rules for profits. While profits are recognized cautiously in stages, a loss has to be dealt with head on. If your calculations at any stage show a notional loss, you have to transfer that entire loss to your books immediately. It's a core accounting principle. You anticipate no profits, but you provide for all possible losses. All right, let's wrap up with one last thing. Long-term contracts like our skyscraper are inherently risky, right? So let's look at a couple of clever clauses that get built into these agreements to manage that risk. First up is the escalation clause, and this thing can be a real lifesaver for the contractor. Imagine the price of steel suddenly skyrockets in year 2 of the build. Without this clause, the contractor's profit could be completely wiped out. But with it, the contract price can be adjusted upwards to cover those unexpected cost increases. It's basically built-in protection from inflation. Another way to handle this is with a cost-plus contract. Now here, instead of one fixed price, the client agrees to pay for all the actual costs the contractor incurs, plus a pre-agreed percentage or a fixed amount on top as profit. This model takes a lot of the pricing risk off the contractor's shoulders and pretty much guarantees them a profit margin, no matter what the final costs end up being.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway? The ultimate goal of contract costing isn't just about following rules for the sake of it. It's all about painting an honest, accurate picture. It provides a true and fair view of a company's financial performance year after year, which helps avoid that wild, distorted profit pattern we talked about at the very beginning. And that brings us to a final thought for you to take away. Now that you understand the principles, recognizing profit in stages, managing cost over time, and all the risks involved, how does this change the way you might think about planning, bidding for, or even managing a major long-term project?